Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. This is the show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books, dares, and devils. I'm your host, DJ Wooldridge. With me is Roxy Stryer.
Oh my God, DJ, you say you don't watch sports, but that's how they announce.
I've watched a sport before. I've watched the football. I think the only sport, I watched some Olympics and I watch football occasionally.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but they don't do those announcements in the Olympics, do they?
I don't think so. No. But I've watched some football, but I don't like basketball, soccer.
When you think of the first Olympic athlete, who do you think of?
That's not fair. That's not nice of you to do that to me. But I immediately thought of Michael Jordan because don't the best basketball players do that in the Olympics too?
Yeah.
LeBron James. That's
For some
cheating.
reason, I thought of Tara Lipinski. Why? I don't know.
Yeah. What was the Tanya Harding from I, Tonya, played by Margot Robbie?
Also a real person who really screwed up Nancy Kerrigan's entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Good movie. That director that did I, Tonya's doing the Supergirl movie. So
that actress that did I, Tonya is doing a lot too.
She's doing what she's done one or two things. That was for me. That was her big. Even though she got her break in. See, this is her preambles in the main show. She got her break in Wolf of Wall Street, which is like a real prestigious thing. I, Tonya was like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna pay attention to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not just the hot girl in the Martin Scorsese movie, by the way.
I hope that there are people out there that think we don't know who Margot Robbie is.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I think she's going to go on and do great things. But listen, gang, what are we talking about today? We're talking about Daredevil Born Again. That's right. Daredevil is back. I was informed by headline 7 years after it was not after it premiered, 7 years after it was canceled. And I felt ancient in my bones.
What would you have guessed?
I would have guessed like 4, maybe.
Yeah, me too.
And I think I'm going to give myself a little bit of a benefit of the doubt in that we had a whole pandemic in between those times and a bulk of a Trump presidency won. So, cut me some slack. Okay. It's been a wild 7 years.
And how long are we considering the pandemic?
Forever. We're still in it.
Right. I just mean like when we are like, we had a whole pandemic.
Well, a lot of people considered it. What was it, like 2020? When did we get that? We got the vaccines at the end of 2020, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That was a good turnaround. At the beginning
of 2021.
It's crazy.
I was one of the first people to take my grandparents in February of 2021.
It's crazy that we don't treat the fact that we're able to get effective vaccines that quickly as like something equivalent to the moon landing. It's crazy that we're like pissy about it. The people are pissy about it. But whatever. That's not what this show is. The point is, it's been a long time. Daredevil's back on our TV screens. We're going to be talking about that. I saw the first 2 episodes. Roxy saw more.
Yeah, but she only saw for the purpose of this, I only saw 2.
Okay, so for the purpose of this, she only saw 2. Although I do have some speculation for later in the season that I am interested for Roxy to confirm or not confirm for me. Maybe I'll do that after the episode for the patrons, so I don't potentially spoil stuff for people. And we're also going to talk about the Oscars. But before we do that, oh my goodness, a little bit of business up top. If you want to support this show, if you want to check it out early, ad-free, watch it live, check out Patreon exclusive shows like What We're Into or Spider-Versity, which is back, by the way. You can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. Also, every week we like to read some of your comments from either the podcast on Spotify or on YouTube. This is from the podcast. Yeshu Wazalewski says, this is off of our Captain America Brave New World review. Yeshu Wazalewski says, personally, this solidified my love for Sam Wilson Cap, but this should have been a Hulk movie. Lego Monster 21774 says, I liked Captain America 4, but I will say that it felt weird whenever they showed Harrison Ford as General Ross or a picture of young Ross with young Betty, because in my head, I still pictured William Hurt. Kind of wish the pictures were of Hurt, but I also think it would have been weird, kind of a lose-lose situation. Also, Roxy, how excited are you to see Danny Ramirez in The Last of Us Season 2?
Oh my God, everybody knows I'm completely obsessed with him. I love him. I'm so excited. Love that show. I think it's so funny how controversial it is to think that he's really talented. I didn't know that there was such a sector of the internet that thinks he's not talented. I don't understand.
On what? Based on what?
Based on the movie we just all saw.
Captain America? No, he was good. I do think
so. Christian is like, he's the worst part of the movie. He couldn't act in it. And then I was like, you're the only one who thinks that. I found out he's not the only one who thinks that.
That's interesting. No, I thought him and Anthony Mackie's chemistry was really good.
Yeah, me too. And I think that Danny Ramirez is just so charismatic and a handsome boy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think it's one of those that like kill your darling sort of thing, where I think as great as they were together, I wonder if the movie as a whole would have been stronger if it was Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, or because of all the Hulk villains, Anthony Mackie and Mark Ruffalo.
Right, of course.
But that's just... It's not that like that's bad, replace it. I actually think quite good, and would be difficult. That's a difficult choice to make. That it's like, I think the movie might be better. What we're trying to do with the movie might be better with one of these people, but it's not that it's bad. I actually think it's quite good and one of the best parts of the movie.
Setting up for the future, this might be better.
Good point. Yeah, good point. No, but I think he's quite good. It's one of those, actually, truthfully, it's one of those things that when you're watching him, I'm like, are we wasting this guy on Falcon 2? Could he be somebody more important than Falcon 2? But maybe this is how
Falcons move on to do great things.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Maybe I'm underestimating the Falcons of it all. Robert Goyette 5863 says, to the Suicide Squad point, this was we also discussed the Thunderbolts trailer and how much it reminded us of the original Suicide Squad movie. To the Suicide Squad point, what is a team of actual MCU villains you'd like to see in a movie? I'd go with Hela, Zemo, Killmonger, Justin Hammer, Proxima Midnight. I think those are all solid villains. I don't know how in a movie you justify them being together, but if you're just picking good MCU villains, that's a good list.
Do you tend to like villain teams?
I do. Yeah, I do. I am a little bummed. I do think the MCU in particular has wasted a lot of good villains, and I'm bummed that this is one of the reasons why I liked the tease in the original Whedon cut of Justice League, where they're like, what if team of villains? And I'm like, yeah, what if that have our team of heroes fight a team of villains? What a novel idea. But the problem, even with this list, like he had Killmonger on his villain team list, Killmonger dead. And while within the context of Black Panther, that's a very powerful scene. Once again, in the context of the MCU, you keep that boy around because he's real good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a team of I suppose I prefer my villains in the solo fashion, or like as a duo. I think part of being a villain is not being able to work well with others, which is, of course, the fun in villain teams, watching them struggle to work together. We're watching it in our government right now.
Although I wouldn't mind if they struggled a little more. It'd be great if they struggled a little bit more.
I don't know. From what I see, you can't just sing na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye.
Yeah.
During a hearing, DJ, I can't.
I don't even know. There's so much happening. I don't even know what hearing you're referring to. We'll touch base later. Okay.
Anyway, so I do think there's room for a villain team, but it's when you're like, what's your dream of it? That's not what I dream of. So it's hard for me to come up with who.
I think for me, and I've said this before, the original pitch for the Thunderbolts was and this fits perfectly in an era where the Avengers were off the table, a new hero team emerged called the Thunderbolts. And at the end of the first issue, the reveal was this new hero team was actually the Masters of Evil, the villain team that had rebranded themselves as heroes as part of like some sort of evil scheme. And then, of course, and I hate this arc. It's actually an arc I quite enjoy. Through their journey of pretending to be heroes, they learn to be heroes. I don't hate that. And I do think, cute. Yeah, I do think there's something there. Like the original leader.
They're doing here?
I don't think so. It seems like more that this is more of a Dark Avenger, like where all the kind of edgier spy, super soldier adjacent characters are teaming up, kind of like it's just a misfit. Basically, it feels kind of like here's a new Guardians. It's a team of misfits. But from that formula, I would love to see. I think I said in that episode, I know a lot of people are speculating that Taskmaster is going to die early on because of how little they feature into the trailer. I'm hoping because it's a masked character, the reveal will be that it's actually Zemo, because Zemo's a big part. One, I like the MCU's take on
You
Zemo.
mentioned that. You mentioned how much you want him.
I like the MCU's take on Zemo. And two, he's such a big part of the original Thunderbolts. It'd be cool if he was a part of it in some way. I think they've missed opportunity. One of the cooler characters of the Thunderbolts comics is there's been multiple iterations, but like Mach 1. Each iteration is like Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3. And I believe in the comics, they're formerly the Beetle, the Spider-Man villain, the Beetle, which of course they couldn't be in the movie. But Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer is around. Put him in the Mach whatever armor. He could be, you know what I mean? I wish it was more of that and less of like, here's Red Guardian. I like David Harbour, but like, here's Red Guardian. I don't care about Red Guardian.
Can you remind me, the first person that they mentioned was Hela, right?
Yeah. So
Can you remind me if Hela died? I thought she was dead.
Yeah, Hela. Well, that's the problem. Hela, because at the end of Thor Ragnarok, they summon Surtur, the big fire demon guy, to destroy the planet. And she presumably dies, but it's off camera. So, and she's a god, so you could be like, well, she's back now.
She's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know how you justify her being part of her power scale is so different. How do you justify her being a part of your villain team? You know what I mean?
Also, obviously, not speaking about the stars, just speaking about the character.
Yeah.
I did not think that was a strong villain.
That's fair. Well, listen, let us know in the comments what team of villains MCU villains you'd like to see. It could be okay if they're alive or dead, just the ones that you think they should have put on a team together. Now, let's see if we can talk about the Oscars without my computer crashing. Can we do it? Oof, we're still moving slow, but that's okay, everybody. That's okay. We're going to power through. So the Oscars happened last weekend. Roxy, while I open this, tell me your thoughts on the Oscars.
I thought that it was a really good year. Luckily, DJ, you came on Christian's show this week, the day that I was on, which was awesome. I didn't know you were going to be there, so it was a nice surprise for me.
Surprise.
And so I know that you didn't watch the Oscars, and you know that I certainly did, and yes. I love the Oscars. I think that they were fun. I think Conan did a great job moving things along. I liked a lot of the speeches. I thought there was some unique winners. There's been a lot of controversy, of course, post-Oscars about how Anora won and how Anora was shot, and union versus non-union versus $18 million Oscar campaigns, and how much money people should be allowed to use to campaign, and all of these things. But the actual show I thought was really good.
Wait, so there was an $18 million campaign for the Anora to win?
Yes. That
probably cost more than the movie.
Yeah, the movie was $6.
All right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I like Anora. Of the nominations, Anora was also my favorite movie of last year. It is weird. It's always, you get a certain amount of pride of like, yeah, the Oscars always get it wrong. This was the best movie. And then they do the movie you're like, it's like, wait, am I corny? Hold on a second. Wait a second.
Yeah. Listen, have you been hearing all the stuff? Like this thing came out about the way that they used a non-union crew and they like worked around different things. People are pissed right now about Anora. They're pissed.
I think it seems like the people are I think generally that people are pissed generally. And I do think sometimes people have difficulty directing. What are you pissed about, actually? Not saying I'm getting the cliff notes of what people are pissed about from you right this second.
Yeah.
So this is not me trying to be like, they shouldn't be pissed. But it's whatever, man. People are going to be pissed no matter what. Amelia Perez was the front runner, and then all that stuff came out about Amelia Perez, and then it went away. And then Brutalist was the front runner, and then the AI stuff coming. I think this was a year people going to be pissed this year.
Yeah. I do think it's weird that how much money you spend on something dictates who wins. It's how
Oh,
our
yeah.
presidency it works. It's how the Oscar,
Yeah.
that's crazy. It's weird that we do put more money into winning an Oscar than we do into our crew.
Yep.
It's odd. Nora's not the only movie to do that, of course, but there's just so many things about our system that need change, and especially when we're going to give entire Oscar speeches about how important independent filmmaking is. But the lack of transparency about what it actually takes to win an Oscar as an independent film that's distributed by Neon. We're not some like rinky-dink indie.
Yeah, it's
film.
not Sean Baker making those calls on how money's getting spent on to get an Oscar. It's Neon making those decisions,
Yeah. And I have to look more into it also, but my entire Instagram yesterday was about how pissed they were about Anora's win. And truthfully, I just had already decided that the Oscars were either going to give this to Brutalist or Anora, and I still think Anora is better than Brutalist.
Yeah.
So, as you guys know at home, if it was up to me, Wicked would have won Best Picture.
But that's my question too. And I like Wicked was on my top 10 movies as well, so I don't necessarily disagree with that. And I would think traditionally Wicked would be the movie that they would pick over Anora. But I guess my question is, so they spent and I agree. I would rather that money go to the crew than awards campaigns. I don't like that we treat these awards as entertainment in and of themselves. Like I don't like it. I don't necessarily dislike the Oscars. There's components of it I don't like. But if they spent $18 million for Wicked to win, now it's okay.
Because it's a bigger budget movie and a smaller percentage. I'm not saying that makes it okay.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, is that your question?
Yeah, I guess that's if you're going to be pissed about that, which I don't disagree. But if you're going to be like, they spent $18 million to win for Anora, and then Wicked does it, you're like, whatever. It's like, well, why? It's still the same problem.
Yeah, and I think Wicked didn't do that, which I think is... I don't know. I don't even really know what it means. I'm so out of the loop on this stuff. I don't really even know what it means to spend $18 million on a campaign.
Yeah.
It's not like yes, when you would drive around, maybe a couple occasional billboards for your consideration.
Yeah.
But where are you actually spending the money? Is it like on boxes for people who are supposed to watch it being delivered to their house? Like what? I'd love a breakdown on where's the campaign money go?
Yeah, and also, and not to say that this is the case, but it's also social media is such a cesspool right now. It's one of those like, is that true? did they spend 18 million? Like, can we? What are the
Yeah, I can try to see if I can give you more information.
Well, let's go through. How are we doing on time? Because this has been with a lot of technical difficulties on my end, so we'll see. But let's go through some of the winners over here. Nobody cares about those documentaries, although it is a bummer. No Other Land still does not have distribution, which is a bummer. Best production design, Wicked. Here's the thing I discovered, because my wife watched the Oscars. She really likes watching those award shows things. And I realized the reason I don't is I find it very cringe. I find that it makes me uncomfortable. Like when people get awards and like one guy talks over the other guy, and like there's the time limit, so somebody's talking about like this deep story, and they're like being like played off the stage, and like the live production parts that were like a joke's not landing in the crowd. All that stuff makes me feel really uncomfortable, and that's a me thing. I'm not saying that's a problem the Oscars are doing. I'm just like, it's the same reason why I could never watch American Idol. I just find that stuff very uncomfortable.
I just watched the first episode of American Idol this week.
The first episode of the new season, or the first episode ever?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I just don't like the people like, oh man, wasn't it crazy how bad that singer was? I just feel uncomfortable for that person.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. You feel like that about all award shows?
Yeah, I just kind of like maybe it's something about the pageantry of it. I also don't like going to weddings. Something about the whole like ceremony aspect of it. It just makes me uncomfortable.
We've been to a wedding together.
Yeah, I don't like weddings. I used to do videography of weddings. I don't like it.
I don't remember I got COVID.
No. That was a nice one. I also got COVID from that wedding. Yeah. So many awards for Nora. I don't get to be the cool kid now. I'm like the movie that didn't win. Zoe
Yeah, no,
Saldana.
it did. I think that's another thing that people. I like the wealth to be shared. I love when somebody gets this award, another movie gets that award.
Yeah.
When you are winning for best script, best director, best lead actress, and best movie, I understand, because oftentimes if you have the best script, the best direction, and the best actress, you're the best movie.
Yeah.
So, like that does make sense. But it is more fun to watch when there are multiple different winners. Like watching Sean Baker give 4 speeches was like, okay.
Yeah, I know what this guy has to say. That's great. What a weird year. Because normally for me, the movies I like most tend to win best screenplay. That tends to be where they get that award, and then everything goes to like what I would normally assume are safer bet, like something like Wicked, which again, one of my top 10 movies of the year. I really liked Wicked. That feels more like the movie, the Oscars. They give trophies to. That's what that movie exists to do.
Why wasn't it even in the conversation this year?
I
just
tell me.
Don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is the money thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's
Wicked had the money. They had the money. You can't tell me.
But I don't know that they spent it.
That's weird though. I can't imagine Neon outspending Universal. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Yeah, but did you see any campaign stuff for Wicked at all?
I didn't see any campaign stuff for Anora. I'm sure it existed. I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And then again, like we talked about with The Substance, another movie I liked this year, but it's like we don't normally nominate these types of movies. This is not, which good for The Substance. I'm not saying we shouldn't. It's just normally we don't. And so it's interesting that it is part of the conversation.
Yeah, and then kind of like who qualify, did you see Smile 2?
Yes.
Like if we're going to start nominating horror performances.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Gave like the performance of the year.
Yeah.
I love Demi's performance. To me, she deserved to win the Oscar. Everybody who's nominated deserves to win the Oscar. I keep reiterating this.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and be like they don't deserve to win. As an actress myself, they're all different roles, and they all nailed their role 100%.
Yeah.
Amazing job. So if the role you were given, you did the best job that anybody could do in the world at that role, then you deserve to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
And I think Mikey really did do that. So I can't be upset. I can't be mad about it.
Yeah.
Even though Demi was who I was rooting for, and Cynthia was had my whole heart. But if we're gonna nominate horror movies, I just feel like Naomi Scott gave like the most insane performance ever.
Yeah, I have my issues with the Smile franchise. But the movie, like she did a really good, you're 100% right. And I just watched, have you seen the movie Strange Darling?
No. Oh my God. I've been begging rejects to let me, they told me that I can't watch the movie because I'm going to watch it for them. And then it's been months.
Okay.
And I'm like, release me.
Once you see it, I just watched it. I have some questions about it that I would love
it
to.
Or no?
I liked it. There's some stuff in it that once you like pick apart what it's trying to say, you're like, wait, what are you trying to say? If anything, which it doesn't necessarily need to, it's just it is saying something whether it means to or not. And I would be curious to hear your take on it. But it's one of those like, this is good. It has similar themes of The Substance, but we're not nominating this movie, and I'm not saying we should, and I'm not saying The Substance shouldn't be nominated. In fact, I know it's been a common critique of horror fans, like why don't we praise because there's a lot of skill that goes into a lot of these horror movies. And then like The Substance is nominated over Nosferatu, and I thought on a technical level, Nosferatu was I love on every level. I love Nosferatu, but like at least on a technical level, like what do you think we'd talk about some of the performances in Nosferatu? You know what I mean? So I guess
I thought that Lily's performance was unbelievable too. Honestly,
it's one of those things that I think, and people have raised this point. It's weird to treat movies in particular like a horse race of like who wins the trophy for being best, when it's like it's art and it's subjective. It's not like a football game where that person got more points, therefore they win.
Yeah. I'm doing some Googling right now about where campaign budget funds go.
Yeah.
Because I'm just super, super curious.
Bribes. So many bribes. Just bribes.
I mean, I guess it's possible. This says that Neon CEO Tom Quinn told the outlet, I think it's Yahoo Entertainment, 18 million was spent on Anora's marketing and distribution and awards campaign. So that's Anora's marketing,
Yeah.
distribution, and awards campaign. So I don't know that that's fair to say 18 million went to the awards campaign,
Yeah.
because that's usually people do spend their budget on marketing. So, but this is more than that, which of course is 3 times more than how much it costs to make. Their strategies included an organized pop-up merch store selling t-shirts and thongs and having sex workers attend the first screening instead of Oscar voters. Tom told Variety of the unique campaign, we follow the beat of our own drum. The idea of pandering to the campaign as opposed to being who you are as a film is a big, stark difference. We never play to the campaign. We always play to the film, filmmaker, and audience in that order. However, several internet, which by the way, until this, I didn't even know that they did that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well the marketing of Severance, we know that they did that Times Square, whatever. Did you have any idea that they had a pop-up thong shop?
No. I just knew Sean Baker joint. Well, I'm going to see that.
Yeah. Several internet users have since speculated that Nora's large campaigning budget meant that the Oscars were bought. So basically an Oscar can be bought, read one Instagram comment with over 11,000 likes. So bribery, said another. But it's an independent movie. What a joke. Someone else wrote, no artistic decision here, only money.
Yeah. Okay. So this doesn't surprise me. One, yeah, I mean, yeah, money. People spend a lot of money on Oscar campaigns. It wasn't Monique, right? It was a big deal that she specifically did not do any campaigning for her Oscar, and that became a point of contention that she refused to do that. But also,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, for Precious. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Forbes reported last year that studios invest anywhere between $3 million and $15 million on award show campaigns for films. So that seems pretty consistent.
Yeah, but it sounds like a lot of commenters like, yeah, the one you didn't want to win didn't win, and also people like to be pissy on the internet. I'm not saying that there's not flaws in it, and the fact that marketing in general, even if you're not talking about awards, just the marketing is 3 times more than the movie. It's like that. Yeah, I find that frustrating in general. But Roxy, you enjoyed the show.
I did.
So
I hate all this stuff around things sometimes.
Yeah. And also, I got to tell everybody, you're pissed about it. Honestly, if Amelia Perez and the Brutalist's trip up feels much more minor compared to Amelia Perez, though they would have won. If they didn't have any of that discourse around them, they would have won. It wouldn't be Anora. The reason Anora got all these awards is because there was controversies around Amelia Perez and the Brutalist. That's the reality.
I'm having horrible. To me, though, the controversy around Amelia Perez is about the performers and the audience. To me, around the Brutalist, I think that there should be a much bigger controversy. The longer I've sat with that movie, the less it has sat well with me that we took a fake person, put them through absolute hell. Like the brutalism is a real movement. The Jews post-Holocaust are real people, and you guys just told a story that's not true. Especially when the more you look into the brutalism movement, a lot of the architects are Nazis. Just for so many reasons, I have a lot of qualms with that film now.
Yeah.
And so if Wicked wasn't going to win, Anora was definitely one of my top choices. Yeah. I really loved Anora. So it's difficult to sit here and be like, oh yeah, but the budget. I'm curious, how much money did Brutalist spend on this? And that movie's just not sitting well with me.
Yeah.
It bothered me. The movie actually bothered me.
Well, I would tell you my thoughts on it, but it is a 3.5 hour movie, and I have a newborn, and so it's going to be a minute until, if ever.
I don't think you need to ever see it.
That's fine. Thank you.
It's really well done.
Roxy, thank you for giving me that, because I also don't there's a certain type of movie we love to do the Oscars of this is going to make you sad. I don't need that in my life, man.
It's so sad. It's so sad, DJ. It's so sad, and it's 3.5 hours of so sad, and it's not a real story.
Yeah.
It's not like you're like, oh, but I really should learn about this person's life who went through this.
Yeah, I don't need misery porn in my life. But you know what I do need in my life? I need people to go to dangerboycomic.com. It is on Kickstarter right now. As of this recording, we are halfway through our campaign. We have hit our funding goal. So now we're working on our first stretch goal, which I think we're only we're less than 10 roughly, 10 backers away from reaching our first stretch goal. Really happy with the response we've been getting. For people, I guess if this is your first time watching or whatever, you haven't heard my spiel on Danger Boy, it is a cyberpunk action thriller that is my attempt to push the superhero genre into the 21st century, do some stuff that maybe the mainstream big two superhero comics are unwilling or unable to do, tell stories that are kind of moving the genre into a new direction and imagining what it could be as opposed to what it has been doing. If you're watching the video, you're seeing some of our art from Sean Peacock, who is incredible. Still getting new inks from him, and they're just blowing my mind. I think you all are going to really love this comic. It's 44 pages. It's double the size of your average comic. All this stuff you're going to, we've got a ton of variant covers and stuff like that. A lot of Kickstarter exclusives. As of this recording, there is one slot left to get drawn into the comic. So if you're looking at this art and you want to imagine what you would be like as a part of this world, there's one slot left to make that happen. You can also pick up my previous comics like Hellbent and Chaos Theory. A lot of cool stuff there. So please go to dangerboycomic.com and check it out, please, and thank you. I appreciate it.
DJ, I'm looking at your backers right now. You're crushing this.
Yeah, we've got a lot. We've got a really good response. Really happy with it.
How are you feeling? I mean, that's so exciting. Just to be vulnerable for a second, obviously we struggled a bit in our last Kickstarter. And so coming into this one, I know you've had very successful comic book Kickstarters, but I know you were a bit nervous. And with the baby, you've got different priorities and what right now. How are you feeling about the fact that you have so many backers?
I'm feeling really good because part of it is it would be nice as somebody with a baby to make some money off my art. That would be cool. That has yet to happen on any of my comic Kickstarters.
Yeah.
The artists get paid. I usually run them at a loss for me, but
and you hope that the loss isn't too big.
Exactly. That's basically what you're like. I just don't make me go broke for my art, which happens to a lot of people. So I'm very lucky. But part of it also is that the amount of backers for this has been really good, and it's cool that people are going to read this because I'm really proud of it. I think Sean is doing incredible work on art. I'm really proud of the scripts I'm turning in, and it's. We spent a long time on this. We pitched it to publishers and stuff like that, and this wasn't what the mainstream studios were into. They didn't want my anti-capitalist, anti-authoritarian superhero comic. Who's laughing now? And so this is the type of thing that you can only really get on something like Kickstarter. And so yeah, and not just that, Roxy, but the feedback has been really good from people that have checked it out. People, and there's been a big influx of new people. If the numbers are right, there's a lot of people that haven't backed one of my Kickstarters before.
Oh, that's so cool. How did have you been doing other shows other than Christians? And how's your Oscar campaign going, DJ?
It's going good. I didn't spend 18 million on it. Yeah, not 18 mil. Christian was actually my last one. I've got, but ones I previously recorded are coming out soon. So I was on the Small Beans podcast. That should be coming out. If you're a patron of theirs, it just came out. If you're not, it should be coming out in about a week. I did one with a friend of the show, Jason Inman. That should be coming out soon. It's been good. Well, also,
I think you got to tap the Heroes Reforged guy.
We already did it. Yeah. I was on here. I was with them last week. I think that episode came out Monday of this week. Was it this week? Man, time is a blur. But yeah, so it's been, and I don't know about you, Roxy, but doing this kind of stuff is mostly the only way I actually see people. So this is a good way to be like catch up with people. Like I was on the Valley Folk with Steve and Elliot, and it was a good time. How are you guys doing? How's life going?
Yeah, it's like that screenings when you see people for a quick second afterwards. I tell everybody, I mean, the only people I see are in their 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I spend my day. You spend your day with baby.
Yep.
I spend my day with people in their 90s. 3 of them. So
between us, we got our bases covered. Is what we're saying.
Oh yeah, we run the gambit.
We run the gambit. Speaking of running the gambit, let's talk about Daredevil Born Again. As we said at the top of the episode, this is our the return of Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin after 7 years. Well, not completely 7 years because they came back for Spider-Man movies and Hawkeye shows, respectively. It's She-Hulks and Echoes. There we go. I think I got all of them. Roxy,
Yeah.
for you, let's start with you. How did it feel to be back in Hell's Kitchen?
I think that I was in a really good position to watch this show because this is not my be all end all show.
Yeah.
So most of my friends that are diehard Daredevil fans, and really diehard Daredevil the show fans, the original show, have been waiting for this. I feel bad for them in terms of like the stakes are just so high.
Yeah.
It's just like, how could you
so
possibly?
Much pressure.
So there's just so much pressure on this. You've been waiting for so long. You've been rooting for this. There was years where we thought we never would see Daredevil ever again, and especially in his own show, and especially not Charlie Cox. So I feel like I was in a really good position going into this because I saw the Daredevil show when it came out and really liked it. My favorite was Jessica Jones of the Netflix Marvel shows. I loved Jessica Jones, but I loved Daredevil. I did a couple of carpets for Defenders for Daredevil, met the cast a few times, really liked the show, and was like, okay. But when everything went away on Netflix, I was like, I'm really glad we had that. Anyway, so now this is just kind of like icing on the cake for me. I didn't know we'd ever get here. So going into this, I was just really excited to see what they would do. When we got the trailers, I felt like, yeah, cool. This looks cool. We saw that in the trailer, that dining room scene or whatever you want to call it. And I was really invested in that. Exactly. Dining room, diner.
Yeah.
I do know the difference between a diner and a dining room. And I was like, oh, this looks awesome. I'm just going to kind of leave it at this and go into it. So it's not that I had low expectations. It's just kind of like I had no expectations.
Yeah.
Just was going to watch this like I watch any show and hope for the best. So how I felt after watching episode 1 and 2 was, ooh, goody. I'm so excited for this. I prefer episode 2 to episode 1, even though I know that episode 1 seems to be the more popular episode right now.
That's interesting, but we'll dive into that in a little bit.
Yeah, mostly because I felt like episode 2 gave me an insight into this is what we're doing for this season.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I like what you're doing for this season.
Which is not, it's not abnormal for a show, the pilot to kind of like set everything up. And then episode 2 is like, by the way, here's everything we set up. But I was really glad. I left episode 1 with mixed feelings. And then by the end of episode 2, it was like, oh, never mind. I'm in. I'm actually good. I'm glad you dropped both of these because I'm in.
Yeah. And I really think that with the two of them together, it's fair what they did with episode 1. Like they had a lot of setup to do.
Yeah.
We have been gone for quite some time.
Yeah. So I think that is a good summary. I am going to go into, before I get into my thoughts, I'm just going to let people know, these episodes dropped on Tuesday. We're going to go into full spoilers right now. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to get right into it, baby, on what our thoughts are. So if you haven't watched the episodes, if you're waiting, why are you listening to this before you watch the episodes? Go watch them.
That is crazy that people do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Come on. So we open, I think they made some very bold choices. They made 2 very bold choices right at the top of the first episode. Because we are reintroduced to, Nelson, Murdock, and Paige. And the 2 big decisions they make were, they kill off Foggy, one of our main trio, which I had heard some chatter about being a possibility, and I was on the fence of that because in the comics, Matt and Foggy, they're ride or die. Matt always has his Foggy around, and Karen has famously died in the comics. But when they did it, I was like, I guess this makes sense because we don't need to fridge another love interest. We don't need to kill another hero's love, and we don't need to kill the woman in a hero's life. We don't need to do that.
I also loved the way they did the heartbeat of this all.
The heartbeat aspect of it was good. The other bold decision is right off the bat, we're going to do one of those classic Daredevil one-ers, but hold on a second. We're going to make sure it looks like absolute ass. We're going to make it look almost incomprehensible what's happening. We're going to have him throwing tear gas. It's going to look really, really bad. So you're going to have this feeling at the beginning of the episode like, oh no, is this going to be bad?
I didn't think this looked really, really bad.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry that was your intro to it.
Yeah, the second he started throwing the tear gas, I was like, "Oh no, that's not a good. That we want this to look muddy and gross is what we're going for. Is not a good sign."
When you think they made 2 decisions, you really think that those are equally? They kill off one of the main characters.
It's a big It's a big offer. We're going to kill off one of the main characters, and we're going to do one of the things the show was famous for, but badly. Those were choices that were made, because I was texting Sal after, and I'm like, that's where you spend your money, man. Like from what I understand, this whole opening thing was part of the reshoots. From what I understand, Nelson and Paige were not going to be in this show at all. And so my understanding is this whole thing was part of the reshoots, but it's like, yeah, man, if you're going to open on a oneer where you kill off one of your main characters and it's Daredevil fighting one of his most famous antagonists, Bullseye, on paper, if you're going to kill off Foggy, it should be somebody like Bullseye that does it. And then opening with something we didn't really get, because the actor, Wilson Bethel, was in the Netflix show, but he never was Bullseye. He didn't go full Bullseye in it. He didn't, technically he doesn't go full Bullseye in this. He's got a costume, but it's not the full Bullseye getup yet. All that on paper is strong, but I thought that one was real bad. It was real rough.
I didn't think that, but I will give the prerequisite that as you know, when we get these screeners, we have to do them on the internet. So I did watch this on my computer.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a huge screen, but no, I thought that looked totally fine.
Okay. Yeah. I thought it was real rough.
What do you guys think? I'm curious.
Let us know in the chat or the comments or the chat or wherever. What did you guys think of the oneer? But you and I talked a little bit about this before we went on air. I do, from what I've heard, and Roxy, I think you might be more, since you were able to watch more, it seems like as I was reading reviews that had also gotten screeners, it seems like the first 4 episodes were the most retooling, you know what I mean? Where we started off over here, and then the new showrunners kind of took control post episode 4. And for me, just having seen the first 2 episodes, episode 1 felt the most like you could feel like, hey, we had one version of the show, and now we've put on other versions of this show. And it, not that it doesn't work, but it just feels rough around the edges, because you mentioned the diner scene, which I would argue in the first episode, I think is the strongest scene.
I agree.
Because it's the 2 main guys, and they're in a scene together. But similar to you, once we got
because how else do we get them in a scene together until for so long?
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to feel them together before we separate them to ultimately, I'm sure, bring them back together.
Well, and it's also, these actors have been with these characters so long, not only the years they played them, for however all the guest appearances and however long in between shows, and you feel that rapport. You feel it. These are Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are really great actors, and that it works. It just works. And I don't know about you, Roxy, but there was a moment of like, good. I'm glad these Netflix shows have been grandfathered in, because they did have Vincent D'Onofrio, Kilgrave, and Jessica Jones. They did have some of the best villains.
They really did.
Yeah.
They really did. The shows had, honestly, I would argue tit for tat, the shows had better villains than the movies.
I agree. And if Jessica Jones is fully canon, we're not going to be getting any Kilgrave, which is a bit of a bummer. But it's like, good. Yeah, good. I'm glad.
That season with Kilgrave, I mean, that show was so good to me. I just thought that Jessica Jones was so good.
I don't know that Jessica Jones overall was my favorite Netflix shows, but Jessica Jones season 1, I think, is the best season of any of those shows. That first season of Jessica Jones is rock solid.
It's rock solid, truly. Justice for Tear Gas. Mike Joyce says it looked fine to me on my TV. And Leonard Kim says that was probably one of, if not my favorite part of the show so far.
You know, listen, reasonable people can disagree, but I think every season they try to one up that first oneer in season 2, and that's still the best. It is undefeated. I don't think they're ever going to, because I think
that is the greatest. I'm not saying this is that.
Yeah, because they keep trying to do more, and I'm like, that's the wrong. What makes that sequence work is how simple and elegant it is. I think it's the wrong. We love to make these big complicated oneers. I'm like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point of how a oneer works. But anyway, like you, Roxy, I thought, so I liked parts of episode 1. Once we got into episode 2, and we introduce the conceit for what I presume is going to be kind of like our arc long case, which is we're introduced to Victor Ayala, who's trying to help a guy that appears to be being mugged in the subway. And in the fight, one of the guys who is quote unquote doing the mugging ends up in front of a train pretty brutally. And what we find out is they're undercover cops, maybe crooked. They're definitely crooked cops. It's
certainly crooked.
Yeah, they're definitely crooked.
Undercover. I don't know if we call it that, because I don't know that they were officially undercover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Victor did nothing wrong. Once we're introduced to that case, it felt like episode 2 felt like the show clicked. Like, hey, here's what the show is, and I'm like, cool. Especially when we get into the final fight, which I thought was a lot stronger. And the fight at the end of episode 2 was a lot stronger than the one at the beginning of episode 1. I was like, I'm in this. I was a little worried because as I've mentioned on previous episodes, I really wanted this to be good. I like Daredevil a lot. I want it to be good. He's now officially in the MCU. We even got a Spider-Man, not a name drop, but when Kingpin's like, no more vigilantes. We don't need guys dressed like those spiders. I'm like, yeah, that's right. He exists here. We can admit Spider-Man exists.
Spider-Man. Yeah. That was
cool. So once,
I agree with this fight. I think that the fight looked awesome. I also think it was rewarding because for those of us who know who Daredevil is and watched the original show, you're waiting for him to snap into it.
Yeah.
And he's getting the living crap kicked out of him.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting. And you're like, what the hell? Like, are you going to just let them? And then it's not until he's literally about to die that he's like, man, I guess I'll, and then just annihilates.
Yes.
Which is what we all know he's capable of and want to see that he's still capable of. So I thought that was really cool, really earned, and also gave us interesting things to think about in the future. Like we see that Punisher tattoo on one of the cops.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is this like a Joker situation where people idolize Punisher and now like that's their person, or is he part of a group that's working with, or what exactly is that? And obviously it was clocked by Daredevil, so I like that they're planting seeds for the future.
Yeah, speaking of that, Clementine in the Discord asked, my jaw dropped when the one murderous cop had a Punisher skull tattoo. Do you think this will mean something for the story, considering we know Punisher will be in the show? Is it some commentary on the part of the creators about the state of modern policing, or is it just an innocent Easter egg that's maybe recklessly loaded? Well, it's definitely not an innocent Easter, because the show like zooms in like, hey, by the way, pay attention to this.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I think in our universe, when we idolize people, we get tattoos of them. So it's possible that, or it is maybe a group of whatever.
It is also not, it is tricky. And I've been hearing good things about people that have watched the rest of the season. It is tricky for a superhero show to tackle this stuff. But in the real world, there are gangs inside police forces and they get tattoos, like white supremacist gangs and stuff like that.
Right.
It's not uncommon, particularly in local sheriff's departments. So touching on that, they are in a tricky bind where I don't think they're willing or able to just throw the Punisher character under the bus, despite that possibly being the best choice moving forward. But it does give them an opportunity for maybe there is a moment in the comics where Punisher like scolds some cops that are wearing his logo, and I think it's a little cheesy, but I agree with the sentiment, I guess. But I am excited for Jon Bernthal's Punisher to return, and I'll be interested to see. I do have some speculation that Roxy, having seen more of the episode, I do want to see if she knows, but we'll do that. I don't want to spoil stuff for people. So
no, I'm not going to say anything.
So I'll ask her off air. But
I'm not going to say anything.
We do have in the chat, and maybe again Roxy's not able to say, but Mike Choice had the same question I had at the end of the episode. Did he kill the two cops at the end? And I had the same question because one of those lands right on his neck, and I was like, typically in TV show parlance, that means you did.
Yeah, I had the same question at the end of that too.
Yeah, so I'm going to assume not, because they really Matt like. Part of the implication of why he quit being Daredevil is because he tried to kill Bullseye, I'm like, yeah, man, but you didn't though. He's fine. And I thought that was a good choice. That it's like, don't worry, we'll hold on to Bullseye so he can be a Bullseye again later. We're not gonna get rid of Bullseye in the opening minutes. We all know you want the stupid target on his head, and I'm right. They're right. I want the costume with the stupid target on his head. I want it. Give it to me.
On the cop situation for a second, the other thing I was thinking about was like, so what the cops were willing to do here was to kill this lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, what was their plan of attack? At this point, it made me think, like, because one turns to the other and was like, he's just a lawyer, dude.
Yeah.
And seems to not want to do this. So now I'm like, are they being coerced into it by other head cops, or we do see the Punisher tattoo? What does that mean? Like, who is the boss of these cops, who clearly are like meathead, corrupt, crooked cops, but clearly are not in charge of the operation?
Yeah. Well, so if what the larger conspiracy might be, that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see it tie. I know we've get hints of Muse, who's the character that's doing the graffiti on the walls and is a Daredevil antagonist. And of course, we've got the whole thing. I do like the component where basically in that diner scene, both Kingpin and Daredevil are like, we're both going to be on our best behavior. And you're like, no, you guys, dude, this is episode 1. No, you're not. Come on. We both want to see you crack some heads. Come on.
Totally. DJ, we can't talk about this without Lover of Love, Shipper of Ships asking you, how do you feel about his new love interest?
Well, I like it because that actress is from The Deuce, which is a show I really like. And this also gets into, for me, I can't talk about this without touching on the wider supporting cast changeover we get, because the setup is, and Mike Joyce asked this in the Discord, are you happy with the decision to keep Foggy, Matt, and Karen away from each other? The setup of Foggy dying, although I have heard
Matt and Karen away from each other.
Yeah.
Foggy very far away.
Very far away, although I have heard some speculation about how the show could bring him back. And it does feel weird. Props to those actors. If this is the last we see of them, props to them being willing to come back for that one scene where we're going to write you out of the show.
I've heard rumors that they weren't in this show at all, and that was part of the reshoots that they did.
Yeah.
Bringing them.
Yeah, I know. But I wouldn't be surprised if at least Karen comes back for like season 2. Maybe we're like,
well, we could easily bring back, but what have you heard about how we could bring Foggy back?
So apparently the number on the door of their law firm, the issue, it's like 456 or something. The issue of Daredevil, that is an issue where Foggy was thought to be dead, and then they found out he was actually in witness protection, that they faked his death, and he wasn't actually dead. So people are saying maybe that's the way he died in the comics at that time was a lot more ambiguous than what we got here. But whatever, man. It's the Marvel Universe, man. There's wizards running around. I would just be surprised if I were an actor and like, hey, do you want to come back to reprise one of your most popular roles? Great. Yeah, I would love to. Okay, you're going to be the opening scene and we're going to kill you. Oh, never mind then.
Yeah, but not really, DJ, because name something that you've seen Foggy do since.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
Maybe this like re-ups you on the radar of people that now you're free and able to go do things. Same thing with Karen. Like, I think that they're both really good, and I have not been seeing them.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But anyway,
I'm not saying they haven't done anything. I'm sure they have, but I haven't seen it.
So I have mixed. Lover of Love, Shipper of Ships. I like the new love interest. Fine. I like that actress, so I'm much more open to it. I am interested. We see in episode 2 that she's going to be the couples therapist for Kingpin and Vanessa, which I think is great. She also gets another client that kind of looks like a weirdo young man that I'm going to presume is Muse outside of his mask. I don't know why else we would have spent time on that. And I have mixed feelings on. We're also introduced to. Why am I blanking on Kristen McDuffie, played by Nikki M. James, and Cherry, who I'm very on board. Cherry's his PI, because that actor, Clark Johnson, he's not only a very talented TV director, he's also been in The Wire. He was on The Shield. He's been on a bunch of stuff where I was like, I like this guy a lot. I don't know that I care about his character, but this actor, very on board with him being on the show.
That's what's cool when you, especially TV actors, and you live with them for so long, and then you love them, and then they make a character for you.
Yeah, when he showed up in that opening scene, I'm like, wait, Clark Johnson's making a cameo, and then they're like, no, he's going to be part of the show. Like, wait, Clark Johnson's going to be on the show. But I want to hear your thoughts on this, Roxy, because on the one hand, I thought the relationship with Kirsten in his new law firm and with Cherry really worked. And overall, more than the Netflix shows, this felt like, hey, this is like Daredevil, but if he was a network show, basically. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't hate that. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, wait, this reminded me a lot of She-Hulk, which you and I have both talked about really liking. But that also made me think, wait, they Marvelized his supporting cast. They're like, all those deep personal relationships he had on the Netflix shows? We don't do that over here at Marvel. At Marvel, it's like fun, quippy workplace people. Like, we're just coworkers unless you wear a mask. Otherwise, you're just kind of there in the background. That's what a supporting cast is now. And that realization that we just kind of made Daredevil fit into what the MCU just kind of does made me feel more mixed about it. I was like, on the one hand, I understand it, and I like these actors. I like the rapport here, but it does make it less distinct from what it was doing on the Netflix show. Does that make sense?
I see where you're coming from, but I didn't feel that way. I think like a coworker setting you up and pretending that you're going to do one thing, but you're really going on a date, I think could lead to a deep personal relationship. It's like kind of a funny thing, but also I think we have to give it time to develop deeper connections. It's just, we've only been with them for such a short amount of time. So yeah. I didn't think that these characters lacked depth or potential. Mm-hmm. We just don't know them as well right now.
Yeah. So, but in general, how do you feel them shuffling off Karen and Foggy for this new crew?
Yeah, it was so fast. Yeah. I kind of think we could have spent a little more time with them in the first episode. Like, if we knew that by the end of this first episode, we were going to make this decision. Mm-hmm. I wish we got a little bit more of the trio, because those of us who did love the first show, mm-hmm. A full episode of the trio would have been nice to at least have. Yeah. Foggy was gone so soon, and then Karen was gone, and it was like, what? Why? But and then like Karen, they're just like, we had miscommunications afterwards, and I was like, is that a good enough reason for Karen to be on? I don't know, but yeah. So I was bummed, but I do think that if you want to do something different with the show, you got to have some different players. Yeah, and especially if you don't want to constantly be being compared. Mm-hmm. They did one follow shot and you hated it, and compare. Yeah. So what if we don't like Karen and Foggy in this as much, or their connections as much, or whatever? Compare. So I think that this kind of eliminates the possibility of comparison. I think it was a smart move for them to make. I wish we had a little bit more time with them, but I get it. Yeah.
What about the question back to you, lover, love, shipper, ships? What do you think about the new?
She seemed cute and smart. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of excited about that. I don't think a show is a great show if there's no love. Yeah. So, I love love. So I'm curious. And also, like, it gives us somebody that we're not so connected to that, she could bite the dust at any minute. So the stakes feel pretty high about that. Yeah. Or she could be around for the entirety. We could do a lot with her.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I like her being the therapist for Kingpin and Vanessa. Her proximity to the villains makes me worried about, like, we don't need to have another woman in peril for Matt. Like, we don't always need to do that. but yeah, I hear you. But you know what? Maybe we do. Counterpoint, maybe we do. So there's going to be a lot to discuss. We're going to keep talking about the show, because we even talked about BB Urich, which I thought was an interesting follow-up on Ben Urich from the previous show. We didn't talk at all about Wilson Fisk as mayor.
Or his relationship with Vanessa.
Yeah, which they're on rocky terms, which I thought the timeline is a little weird to me, unclear to me, but I thought the why it strains makes sense. And I thought a good use, I'm glad that was another actress they were going to replace. Vanessa was going to be a different actress. And I'm like, no, get get the old Vanessa. She was great. So they did. And I'm like, yeah, good call.
I love the guy that's love. I mean, I think it's a good character. The guy who's obsessed with Fisk.
Oh,
Who's,
the
like,
little
in his office.
Gandolfini?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a great, like, watching that has been fun.
Every bad politician needs a little sycophant running around. And it's one of those, and now it's one of those things that, like, you know, maybe a few years ago I would have been like, how in what world would Fisk be mayor of New York? And now you're like, no, man, actually he might be less corrupt than the current mayor of New York. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Who's to say? Well, listen, we're to say that we're going to keep following up on this show as it goes on. It is going to be weekly moving forward. Very excited for that release schedule, and very excited to see. We didn't even talk about Victor. The actor that plays Victor is really good, I thought. And I think that's the case they've got is really complicated and interesting. So we will keep you up to date on that.
Do you not know about this? I don't want to speak out of turn right now, but did you
He's
not?
passed. That actor is passed.
Yeah.
There's a dedication to him. I want to say it was cancer.
Cancer. Yeah, is what they said. I was so bummed. He was really good.
He's really good. So I guess if this is his last thing, it's at least a good showing for him, because I thought it's interesting. That character, White Tigers from the comics, I don't have a lot of familiarity with him, but they made me very sympathetic to him in a very short amount of time, which I thought was a good on the show's part. Roxy, where can the kids find what you're working on?
You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Stryer.
You can find me at DJ Talks Trash, specifically on Blue Sky. I would love some more of you to come over and hang out with me on Blue Sky. That's where I'm at more. And not for nothing, if you follow Only Stupid Answers, guess where else that is?
On Blue Sky.
On Blue Sky. Wait, how we
keep
said
the vowels in stupid.
We keep the vowels in stupid. Wow, I rely so much on routine, Roxy, that the second I break my rhythm, I don't even remember what I used to say. What was it? It was you can follow us everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers, but on Blue Sky,
keep the vowels in stupid.
Keep the vowels in stupid. There it is. We found it. Please go to dangerboycomic.com. Please go support that. I think you're really going to love it. And we will see you all next time. Bye.